The following Learn a Latte Zoom presentation on college admission reps was recorded live on Wednesday, September 4th, 2024. Thank you for joining us for our first Learn a Latte session of the school year. I'm Christopher Chaklis, the post-secondary counselor, and Learn a Latte is a student services series in which we talk about different topics related to your students' life at Hersey or life after Hersey, hence the spelling of latte. And since it's bright and early, hopefully you have your caffeine or whatever you need to join us and be ready to listen to this great information that we have today. Today's topic is on college admissions reps. As I said in the confirmation email, which hopefully people got, I guess you all did because you're here, we got some great questions about admissions overall, but we are focused today solely on learning the role of a college admission rep or a college admission counselor. And so instead of me talking about it, I thought I would bring in an actual college admissions rep to join us. So having woken up super early, coming all the way from West Lafayette, Indiana, we are here with Miss Jennifer Troupis, and we want to make sure we get this as a good background here, so my face is in front and center. So Jennifer, Thank you so much for joining us all the way from West Lafayette. Did you wake up and drive? How was the drive in this morning?
Great. It was about 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay. So that might sound like you didn't come from Indiana.
Yeah.
So how are you here from Purdue? That's what we want to hear you talk about. So let's just start off with what is your role? What is a college admissions rep? What do you do? How are you here live and in person in Hersey when you represent a school from another state? So,
great question. So I'm going to generalize and simplify the best way that I can exactly what an admission counselor does. So an admission counselor's job is to guide and counsel students through the admission process. And to start, each institution, university, college, has an office of admissions. And within the office of admissions, they employ admission counselors, and majority of them will be on-campus based counselors. The office of admissions also will employ regional admission counselors. And what that means is that those regional admission counselors live and work in different parts of the country for that university. So for example, I am a Chicago regional admissions counselor. So what that means is that I live and work here in the Chicago area for Purdue. To just break that down further, admission counselors in the Office of Admissions will be assigned different territories throughout the country. Within that territory is where the recruitment happens of that student or of those high schools for that university. So essentially, the admission counselor that's assigned to your high school is your direct contact to the university. So for example, I am the Purdue counselor that is assigned to Hersey High School. So any students that would be interested in Purdue, I would be their direct contact to the university.
Great. And so then that means that when they apply to Purdue and it goes to you, you decide, you have the rubber stamp and you say, yes, you're into Purdue, or no?
Great question. So it depends on the university that a student applies to. For some universities, the admission counselor that is assigned to your high school may also be the counselor that is reviewing your application for admission, as well as making the admission decision. We know that other universities, they may have an automatic admission process where there is no admission counselor reviewing your application. Purdue, for example, and many other places of higher education will have a holistic review where the admission counselors, yes, we review applications, but all of our applicants will go through an admissions committee. So what that means is that, yes, an admission counselor will review your application, but it may go through multiple other admission counselors or channels before a final decision is made on the application.
Okay, so it's good to know you, get to meet you, but like you're not the end all be all for a lot of these schools. Okay, very important to know. Thank you. All right, so as I think our parents have known if they've come to any of my presentations, we want this process to be student driven, especially by the time they get to be juniors and seniors. And so one thing I want to see if we can for sure figure out today is what is a good question, or what are some good types of questions that students should be asking? So we only allow students to come to the rep visits here at Hersey, and we can share that link later and talk about that if we have time, as our rep visits do start today. But so what are some questions that students should be asking? What are some questions that maybe parents are asking or can ask that would be acceptable, or more acceptable for them to ask? Is there like a balance? So I don't want parents to feel like they have to like take a hike and they don't have any part in this, because that's not true. This is a big decision. But I want to see if we can kind of narrow down what are some things students should be asking, and what are some things that maybe are more okay for parents, and is there a good balance? So yeah,
I've had this question ahead of time, and I've actually thought about this question and the answer to this question. But when I think of the answer to it, I go farther back in the admissions process, because I feel that the student parent questions, there are no necessarily any questions that a student should be asking versus necessarily a parent should be asking. And the reason I say that is because all questions come from a place of support for the student. This is the student support system, the parent, the student, and we want to make sure that they all understand the questions that they're asking and the answers that are received. So where I go back in this is, what is the role of the student and what is the role of the parent? So if you haven't explored any student checklists or parent action plans, I would encourage you to do so. Big Future at collegeboard.org has it's an amazing website. If you haven't used it, you definitely should look up bigfuture.collegeboard.org, and we're going to share that link with you. And in there, you'll see a student checklist of what students can be doing freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year. You'll see parent action plans of what parents can be doing freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year. Now, if you're a parent and you're a senior and you're of a senior student and you're saying to yourself, oh my gosh, I've never looked at anything like that. That's okay. Take a deep breath. These are just guides for parents and for students. But what this does, it allows you to see where you're at in the college process. Many admission counselors and even high school counselors will suggest that families set up a weekly, seniors potentially weekly, juniors maybe bi-weekly, freshmen and sophomores maybe monthly college meeting for your family. So maybe it's Sundays at 6:00 or whatever it is. But during these meetings, you as a support group, the parent and the student, can work on those to-do lists and action plans. From there, you'll start to formulate your questions. Well, what questions do we have? Are they just general questions as college overall, or are these questions now specific to the school that I'm applying to? From there, you can research student and parent, either together or separate. See if you can have your questions answered by going to the school's website. If not, if you're realizing, oh, you know what, I think we're at the point where we need to start asking the high school counselor or the admissions counselor or the Office of Admissions questions, that's fine. We're here for you. We are a resource. We want to answer your questions for you. But it should be student driven. The phone calls and the emails really should be coming from the student. But because you are discussing as a unit what those questions are, the student now feels empowered and comfortable asking those questions. Now that is a online platform, right? Emails definitely should be coming from the student.
Do they copy the parent on it or something?
They can, and that's up to what you want to do as a family. I have many students who will copy their families on it, or it's an email address that their parents can also access so that you are seeing the replies from the admission counselor. Now, let's say we're in person. We're in an information session on campus or off campus, or we're meeting at a college fair. The parent is going to be there in most cases. It's not that the parent can't ask questions. You, of course, can ask questions, but let the student speak first. Your questions are more of the supplemental questions of your child asking questions and you realize, oh, they may have forgotten something, or you have a follow-up question. of course you can ask those questions. We want you to. Those are going to be more conversation when we're in those settings.
Right.
So again, it's not necessarily parent questions versus student questions. It's questions that you as a family have discussed. And now the answers to those questions are important to you as a unit to help you move forward in the college process. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And I think a great time to maybe have this meeting, seniors, is on Sunday after you get that weekly email from me that has all the things to do. And I have heard parents say this before, that is what they do. They go through what I've sent,
Yes.
they go through what they have,
Mhm.
and they kind of sit down and kind of absorb it all together so they know what they need to do for that week
Yes.
or whatever's coming up. So just a tip there to read. And so juniors, junior parents, you can kind of find some other times for that, but seniors for sure, maybe after you get that email from me on Sunday afternoon. So, all right. That was great. Yeah. So again, being together, and I think we did something before too. We talked about visits, and when the parents student are there, each side should not embarrass the other side. So just keep that in mind, right? So students, if you're out there listening, if your parents asking a question, don't do the thing. And parents, if you find yourself dominating the conversation or something, maybe like kind of check yourself and step back and say, okay, well, maybe I'm going a little bit overboard. And again, you're kind of having that plan of attack.
And just to piggyback off of that, we understand as admission counselors that the high school students may be nervous, and that is absolutely fine. They may have practiced talking to us and what questions they want to ask, and then they blink when they see us. Don't worry. We're used to speaking with high school students. We will get them talking. We will get them to start asking questions and getting to know them a little bit better as well.
Great. Mm-hmm. So when should they start talking to you? This was, I think, a parent. When should students start contacting you to prep for college apps? How soon should they start visiting, and how should they, go about that?
Okay. So let's talk about visiting colleges. There is no wrong time to start visiting a college or right time. You can start visiting college campuses any year. I know your kids have visited colleges, so have mine. Mine are little still, but really freshmen, and again, those checklists and action plans will help guide you through visits. But freshman and sophomore year are good times to start introducing yourself to college campuses, even if it may not be schools you have on your radar, but just to get a feel of what college campuses are like, sizes. But really, junior year is going to be a time for families and senior year to start visiting campuses. And you'll see that there's all types of visit opportunities. In terms of on campus, there are just the traditional general admissions presentations and campus tours. And then you'll see bigger visit days that are dedicated to juniors or dedicated to students that are seniors that have been admitted to the schools. You'll also be able to see that you're able to customize your visits. So really start visiting college campuses whenever your schedule starts to allow for it. If you're going on a road trip or you're going to a baseball tournament or softball tournament or soccer tournament, and you may have some time on the way there or way back, look up colleges on the way and see if you can just go there, and you don't need an official visit. You can just park your car and walk around the campus. So in terms of contacting us, I'm going to ask a question to you. The question says, should students start contacting you to prep for college applications? Is that a senior we're talking about specifically?
Yeah, maybe, or maybe we can back up or kind of go into this next question that we have on our list here is, so maybe let's say you don't come to Hersey, not every school comes. Obviously, we have about 100 a year, but there's 4,000 colleges, right? So they don't all come.
Right.
We have a lot of great regional reps who do represent colleges from far away, but some colleges, are just far and they don't come here no matter what. So let's say you wanted to reach out to a rep maybe as an introduction, or they don't come and they need to get info and they're never going to see you in person. When should they start doing this, and then maybe what should they say? Should they say, hi, I'm Christopher, I'm a freshman, I want to apply to your school in 3 years, tell me everything about your school,
right.
Or should they have specific questions, what if that was maybe kind of a loaded question, but
No,
I know you mentioned before, like check the website for stuff first. So,
right.
you know,
So when you're emailing an admissions counselor or contacting an admission counselor, no question is a bad question. We understand, again, that all questions are coming from a place of support and wanting to do the best thing for the student. However, before you start contacting the admission counselor, I want you to think about, what is the purpose of me emailing this admission counselor? What is the takeaway? What are my questions that I want to have answered? And be specific about it. So I've had students contact me since their freshman year. And then sophomore year, I have students contacting junior year, students who are seniors who are just applying that have never contacted before. You contact the admission counselor when you feel it is the best time in your college process to do so. When you start having those questions, it could be early as freshman and sophomore year because you're starting to visit those schools. Now, in terms of what questions should you email, or yes, many students will simply email by introducing themselves, but giving a purpose to their email. So for example, hi, my name is Jennifer. I am a senior at Hersey High School. I am going to be applying to your school. I know you're visiting our high school in October. I will not have an opportunity to visit with you during that time because of a class that I will be in. Is there another opportunity for me to meet with you virtually one-on-one, or are you going to be hosting any local information sessions in the area? So what the student has now done is they've introduced themselves. They have given their purpose within the email of, I want to be able to connect with you still. How can I do that? Other students, they will email general questions. So there's a difference between saying, hi, my name's Jennifer. I'm a junior at Hersey. Can you tell me what your student profile is? Well, yes, I can do that. How about, hi, my name is Jennifer. I'm a junior at Hersey. I'm considering your business program. What is the student profile of a business student? Are there any ways for me to connect with the business program at your school? So now, instead of being so general, you're being more specific with those questions because that is what is important to you, but it's also helping us guide you better in your college process to be able to give you that specific information.
yeah,
okay.
yeah. So whenever is not as important as like maybe what you're saying and what you're trying to get out of that interaction. So I know some schools do gauge demonstrated interest, so they may mark down if you are reaching out or whatever, but I'm sure they also are going to mark down if it was a useful or like a point to the email versus like this person just keeps emailing me to say hi, and
that's
like,
yes, you want to make sure
not going to get bonus points for that.
Right.
So kind of going in that, this came from a parent and I think I had a part of it. Are there like some common mistakes that can be frowned upon when interacting with a rep? It doesn't have to be just via email, like in person, either a student or a parent, like mistakes or actions that maybe are frowned upon, like bribing you or something. I don't know if that's happened. And and does that lead, are there any things that you've seen, mistakes kind of going broader to the application itself, some common things that you've seen in all your years of reviewing applications that like, hey, like parents, this, like while your students filling out their own app, if you're going to check it for them, watch for these things.
Okay. So interactions. I would not say that there's necessarily anything that is, again, frowned upon, just because I think everybody has the best interest of the student in mind when we are working with admission counselors. I do think that one of the most common things that I see is not allowing the student to speak for themselves. Especially when we go to college fairs, we'll see this a lot in the springtime, is that when the student is coming up to us, the parent just starts to talk, and we know that they may be nervous. We'll get them to talk. So I think that is probably one of the biggest things. Also, something that you just want to be mindful of is that saying the words, we are filling out the application. Your student is filling out the application. Yeah. So just be mindful of those things. Common mistakes on the application. So I'll take it section by section. So the activity section. Academics speak for themselves, but don't rely just on your academics. The students need to be filling out the activity section. One thing that I see within the activity section is students being super general about their activities. I want students to think about impact and outcomes. So for example, if you're part of the school newspaper, right? And you put that on your application, or you put that in your activity section. And then in the description, you write member of the school newspaper. Well, we know that. We know you're a member of the school newspaper. I want you to think about the impact you had within the school newspaper. Think about the outcomes. Think about skills that you've obtained, or even programs, because we all know you're using technology that you became proficient in. So just be mindful of that. We know that everybody can't be the captain or the editor or the president, but that doesn't mean that you are not a leader, because you are, and you all have had an impact in some way. So when you're filling out that activity section, please be thorough with it. We want to know what you've done throughout high school and where you're spending your time, whether it's inside of high school organized activities or outside. But just think about the impact that you've had. Another common mistake is not sending all your materials in and thinking you have a complete application. Just verify that you are sending in all the required materials, that you're meeting certain deadlines. Some universities, their honors college applications will also be part of the Common App. It will be in the application itself. A common mistake we see for us is that students will skip that section that do intend to apply into the honors programs. So just verify with your admission counselors if there's a separate application for that or not.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of pieces I think parents can definitely help them stay organized.
Yes.
Write down everything that's needed. Yes. I think we talked about this at parent night. We talked to the students about using a checklist and writing do I need to send my score? Do I not need to send a score? And then maybe that's where parents can double check for them for sure. So I think we covered some of the questions we have in our first part. I just want to jump to another common thing, and that's optional. The word optional. Sometimes students and parents see the word optional and they think, if it's an option, my kid better do it because, or else it looks like they're not doing everything they could possibly do. From the admissions side, if you have something that is optional, an optional essay, an optional personal statement, even the optional additional information in the Common App, are you expecting to see like something in every spot? If you have, 2 optional letters of rec or an optional essay, are you expecting to see that? Or like, is it okay to leave that blank? And when should that happen and when shouldn't it?
Yeah. So again, and I think we all know this, the answer to this question depends on the school and how they review applications. But the word option is not a trick.
Yeah.
It really is optional, just like test, right?
Yeah.
But there may be some sides to that, right? Maybe with test optional, they may still use it for scholarships or certain direct admit programs. No, if it's optional, it's optional. And it really is up to the student if they want to complete that information or not. Going to the additional information section of the Common Application, many students don't fill this out. I think that students, it's up to them if they want to or not. But if a student wants to elaborate on any activities or summer camps or internships, I know a lot of students do internships through 214 here over the summer, and they want to elaborate on those different areas that they weren't able to in the activity section, I'd say by all means, fill it out. But again, if it's optional, then we are not expecting to see it.
Okay.
Great question.
All right. Again, we had a lot of really specific questions, and so hopefully we're not going to get to all the very specifics, but hopefully you all understand that it's okay for your student, especially to take some of these questions and ask these colleges directly, because like we've said, a lot of it depends on the school. So when some of the questions about test scores or certain grades, or if we've taken a certain number of AP classes, or, how should we list certain things, it really kind of depends on the school and on the student and what they want to highlight in their application. I know there was a couple questions about financial aid. Do reps also do all the financial aid, or should they reach out separately to another office, or does it depend on the school?
It depends on the school. So something we didn't cover was in the role of an admission counselor, there's various things that we do. Recruitment is a large part of it, on campus and off campus visit options or opportunities, hosting information sessions, but we also can connect you to the different departments on campus. Some admission counselors do have more of a connected role to financial aid, scholarships, and working with you to understand your financial aid packages. And then other schools, they will direct you to their financial aid departments.
Great. Yeah. So kind of, I would say, and correct me if I'm wrong, your role is kind of like their assigned school counselor here. It's like your first go-to. And if your school counselor can't answer the question or needs something more specific, they may refer you to me or to the dean or to like someone else. And if you can't answer the question, you'll refer them, out to somebody else too.
Mm-hmm.
Before I forget, and I think everyone has this, but I just want to paste our upcoming rep schedule on here. And what we've done when we've posted it is it has the reps who are visiting, it has their name and email as well. So like if a student's, can't come to an upcoming meeting because there's a test or they're sick or something, that information's there for them to reach out to the reps directly. We are running here out of time. If anyone has questions before we can ask like a couple wrap-up questions really quickly, but if you have any questions that we haven't covered, please put them in the chat now if it's a general college rep related question. Otherwise, we'll just kind of go to our wrap-up. And one great one is how can students make themselves stand out? Like, what are some things that you see when you're reviewing that really stand out? Does they cured cancer? They won the Nobel Prize? Like, do they have to do these things, or what are some things that maybe make them stand out?
This is probably the number one question that admission counselors receive is how can I make my application stand out? And here's the thing: when you're filling out the college application, there is no perfect application. Really, it's going to be perfect because you feel satisfied with it. But there is a well thought out application. There is a thorough application. Again, academics speak for themselves. I really go to the other parts of the application, the activities, the essays, the supplemental questions. Again, the activity section. There are school organized activities, there are outside activities or organizations that you are part of. You work, you have family responsibilities. Some of you've done internships, research, you've attended university summer camp programs. Make sure you're highlighting those different activities in that section. And again, not being so general in your descriptions, but more thinking about the impact and the outcome of what you did within the program. So I want you to take some time to think about that. Really, I feel that's what makes students stand out is those descriptions. And then with the essays, I know you guys have been working on essays here, and there's going to be another workshop next week for essays. But the supplemental questions, making sure that students understand how the university may want them to answer those questions, and really tying it into the major that you're applying to at the school. So if you are considering applying into engineering, great. I want to know why you want to be an engineer, but now tell me why the program that you're applying to at that specific school is going to help you achieve those next steps. So making sure you're specific within them.
And is that a question that like you might answer? Like if when they come to your visit, like, what are you looking for in the essay in the rep? So another reason why we try to tell students they're very anxious to submit sometimes they overthink it and they wait when they're waiting for that perfect. It's not perfect yet. That's one issue. Right. But then the other side, we have students who often want to get it in because they think if the sooner I get it in, the faster. And we say, maybe wait until you talk to the rep visits if they're coming or whatever. So they might say, this is what we're looking for in this section and that section. So keep that,
And that's actually a really good question to ask an admissions counselor is, if I submit my application earlier, does that work in my benefit? For some schools, it may. For other schools, it's no. Anybody that applies by November 1st, you're an equal consideration. So don't feel rushed, but make sure you meet that early action deadline for whatever the school may be. And that's a really good question. Students should feel really comfortable with their applications. And really, I mean, you've done everything you can do. You've done all the work throughout high school, and now you're just putting it all in one place, and that's the college application.
Yeah. And again, the students have us here at Hersey to help them with that. They have the reps from the schools to help them with that. So they shouldn't feel like they have to do this whole daunting application all by themselves and just see what happens. Like, we can't promise any results in the end, but we can definitely at least help make sure that they feel that this is their best foot forward and it is what it is. And hopefully if they've created a balanced personal fit to themselves, they will have, some acceptances and some options if they went about the whole process the right way. So we're out of time. Thank you so much for joining us bright and early from a couple minutes away in Arlington Heights. But Jennifer will be back. Luckily, she's close. She'll be back next week for our seniors as part of a panel to kick off College Essay Palooza. So parents of seniors, make sure that you tell your seniors to set their alarm for bright and early next Tuesday morning, the 10th, so that they're in the theater by 10:30 a.m. Otherwise, thank you all so much. 7:30 a.m. Bright and early, 7:30 a.m. Bright and early, 7:30 next Tuesday. So thank you again, Jennifer. Thank you all for joining us, and we hope you have a great day.